All right, welcome back. We're going to discuss the projected Eastern Conference standings. This is my first attempt. I looked at the depth charts of every team. I kind of did it a little differently this year. It's never accurate, but it's fun, and I always enjoy looking back at it and critiquing myself a bit. I also don't have a Hurricanes hat, but I'm wearing a Hurricanes jersey, and I didn't change my Boston jerseys in the background. So there you go, because I'm a Boston kid. Um, just diving into it, I know I'm opening myself up to a little critiquing, but I did put projected points values as well, and I did plus minus from where they finished from last year to where I'm projecting them to finish this year. I'm not sure if this will be my final thing. I'm going to have to go through again just to make sure I'm all caught up with everything and didn't miss any key parts, right? For fun, Eastern Conference, because this might take longer than I expect it to. So I'm just going to do one conference. I'll do Western, I don't know, in a few days or something. Starting off with the Atlantic, I got the Florida Panthers first place, 108 points, plus 9 points from this past season during the regular season. They had 98 points last year. I think with the additions of a guy like Brad Marchand, for example, he's got that motor. He'll keep the team motivated throughout the year. He's just one of those little power bunnies that kind of works behind the scenes to keep his team going. And I think a lot of the issue with Florida in the regular season is their lack of motivation, and they just don't get up for certain games. They just don't. So I think Marchand will help. For example, I think there's other pieces as well. I think they're very deep, as we saw in the last Stanley Cup run they had. They look good. Second place, I got Toronto only going down a point. When I came into this, I was adamant. I was like, I'm not going to have Florida first in the standings because they are not the best regular season team. They kind of coast into the playoffs. We know this. And Toronto's usually the powerhouse. They lost Mitch Marner, right? But looking at their roster, I kind of like it. I hate Toronto, but let's be. I think their roster is more balanced. I think there's potential for some of those guys to step up into the lineup. You're also banking a lot on guys like Matthew Nyes, for example, to continue performing at peak. You know, there's a 100-point guy Marner and missing with the offense, so you're gonna have to that offense is gonna have to come from somewhere else. I think there's a good, solid team that can figure it out. And I kind of like their defensive improvements. I'm not going to lie. I think they have become a better defensive team. My biggest question mark is getting those top six wingers figured out, and their goaltending. Is Stolarz? You know, are people going to have a book on him? Is he the number one starter? People are starting to figure out Wool slightly. I love Joseph Wool so much. So I think they'll be fine in net. I think they have two potential starting goaltenders. We'll see. I have them 107 points, only losing a point from last year. And with a loss of a 100-point player, that's pretty solid in my opinion. Next up, I got Tampa at 103 points, finishing a point above last year, so kind of minor. We kind of know what Tampa's about. They're pretty consistent. It's, the ceiling and the floor is pretty close to each other. There is some potential for some of those younger guys on the right wing to step up into that top six and really start making an impact. I think that'll be fun to watch. I think some of their players are getting kind of old and you worry about the decline, and some of the players that should make the roster are young and exciting and have a lot of potential to add offense or what have you. So I think they're going to be relatively the same, but we'll see how those younger guys pan out. I think Tampa did a good job kind of getting some of those younger guys in. I think they'll be all right. Fourth place, last wild card team in the Atlantic. I have the Ottawa Senators, minus 2 points from this past season. Where I had their depth chart up, I still do. I got questions. Some of these guys are getting a little older. You have Perron, who's 37. You have Claude Giroux, who's 37. You have Riley Gregg projected in the top six. We'll see. And other than that, you really don't have a whole lot of other people. You have Dylan Cousins, Batherson, but All right, never mind. I was going to say you don't have a whole lot of people to step up into that top six, but you have a few. Um, I think their defense is fine. I don't hate it. I do have some questions, but overall, I think they're in pretty good shape. I think they're going to be about the same. I think you're going to see a slight dip in the offense. I think you're going to see a slightly better defense. Senators should be in the playoffs. They should be fun to watch. Um, you know, I hate it. I grew up a Boston fan, diehard Bruins fan, and a lot of these teams in the Atlantic I can't stand. Like, I hate that they're good, but I have to be entirely honest. Some of these teams are so fun to watch. And the Senators, I love watching the Senators. They're a fun team to watch. Toronto, Tampa, Canadians, Nah, I love it. I hate the Canadians, but we'll get there. But they're fun. That's a great team to watch, especially if you're just getting into hockey. Fifth place, I got the Red Wings, first team out of the playoffs, 89 points, a +3 growth from last year. I was kind of shocked. I have questions. I still have a lot of questions, as I did last year, about their defense. But I also don't hate it as much as I thought. I do hate a lot of it. Ben Sherratt, for example, might be playing on that first line pair again. That's kind of an issue. You have a guy like Simon Evison, though, who really was excellent last year. Good, very, very solid, big defensive guy. And can skate well. He's got some hands, can throw a little offense if you need him to. I don't know. I think they have some good guys. They have some strong pieces to build around. It's just getting that supporting cast. I think that's really where they need to kind of figure it out. There's a lot of questionable pieces that were brought in and still remain on the team. I think is Hamonic. I do have their depth chart up. Look at that. I don't. I got to click to it. There we go. Where is it? Yeah, Travis Hamonic on your third line pairing, potentially. I don't know, man. There's still some questions there. Montreal Canadiens, I actually have them going down 4 points, and this isn't because I'm a Boston fan and I just hate to see Montreal do well, because I do love that, but this is very independent. I do recommend, if you're getting into hockey, and it kills me to say this, the Canadiens are a fun team to watch and start following. They have a young, exciting, energetic roster. They're growing. They're going to be very good in not too long of a time. It's not going to be too long of a wait. But I do have them going down 4 points. Remember, they finished the season off very, very strong last year. Making the playoffs. Did they make the playoffs? They made the playoffs. Yeah, they were the last wild card seed. They beat out Columbus. Right? But I still have a lot of questions about their defense and kind of somewhat their goaltending. Not really. I love Sam Montembeault. I think he's fantastic in net. I think he deserves to be a starting goaltender regardless of if he stays with Montreal or ends up elsewhere. I don't think Montreal should trade him. I love him. I don't think there's any rumors about him leaving, so I just want to clarify that. But I do have questions about the team's ability to play defense. You have some forwards that are more than capable of providing that defensive play. Nick Suzuki is very, very good, if not excellent defensively, and can throw up points. But you also have a lot of younger guys on your offensive core who haven't developed that two-way aspect to their game yet, which is not uncommon. It's very common. That comes as the years of experience in the league progress. Weird way to put that. But their defensive core as well. I love Caden Gooley. He's a young kid. He has and still will make mistakes. You got Mike Matheson, right? And I don't know why he gets a lot of hate. I mean, I do, but I also love Mike Matheson at the same time. But you're going to have both of those guys paired with Lane Hudson and Noah Dobson, who are very offensively oriented players. You need a stronger defensive defenseman to counter that offensive defenseman player, right? You see that with Devon Taves and Cale Makar. Devon Taves is very, very good defensively, whereas Cale Makar is an offensive defenseman. You saw that in Vancouver with Hronik and Quinn Hughes. Hronik, very, very good defensively. Just kind of as an example. So I do have concerns about their defensive aspect of their game up and down the lineup. I love their goaltender. I thought he stood on his head last year. I don't know if he's going to do that again. And I don't know that they're going to have a hot streak to finish the season like they did this past year. I think they're still a very good team. I think they're still growing towards something positive. I do have them going down 4 points, though. I do think there was a bit of overperforming that happened last year, but I think there's going to be a lot of growth that comes out of this year. So there you go. Canadians, maybe next year, as soon as next year. Assuming this is all right, because it always is, because I'm always right. I'm not. But the Canadians probably going to be a playoff team, and maybe as early as next year. Buffalo Sabres, I got going down 2 points. I just got questions, man. Like, what are they doing? Most of their roster, they're running back as it was. They lost some guys. They brought in some guys. I'm not too keen on some of the offensive players they brought in, or like their offensive group as a whole. Let me rephrase that, because I like the offensive players they brought in, but what they lost versus what they have versus some of their younger guys that should get a stronger chance to play more minutes is a good way to put that. I don't know. I have questions. I like the addition of Kesselring. I think that's an upgrade over a guy like Connor Clifton on that right side. Connor Clifton, kind of a third pairing defenseman. Kesselring is a top 4 guy who I think will pair with Owen Power very well and kind of let Owen Power do his thing offensively while being able to, let Owen Power play his 200-foot game. He's also not too bad defensively either. He's a defenseman I think is very, very, very underrated, but hasn't been given those opportunities to really showcase what he can do. They have Darlene. They have some strong pieces. You still have Tage Thompson. I don't hate their center core all that much. I think they have some strong face-off guys. Whereas that's something I forgot to mention with the Canadians. I don't like their center core. Kirby Dach's going to be your second-line center, most likely. And aside from Nick Suzuki, you have a bunch of guys who will not win you face-offs. It's going to be a struggle at the face-off dot. It's going to be hard to win and score when you're chasing the puck for a lot of the game, and I think that's going to be an issue with Montreal this year. There's potential to grow, but what's Alex Newhook projected to be the third-line center at this point on that team? I love Newhook. Newhook's a winger. Kirby Dach probably should be a winger. I don't know. And last I got the Boston Bruins, 8th place, 68 points, a -8 drop-off. This is a tough one. This is a very tough one. A lot of people are picking them to be, or saying they'll probably be better than they were this past season. I don't see it. I really don't. They were third to last in the league in goals scored. They had 222 goals scored last year. It's Nashville had 214 and San Jose, I think, had 210. That's when Boston had players like Charlie Coyle and Brad Marchand. They didn't replace those players with any guys that can score. You're really banking on some of those younger guys to come in and produce offense. It's not a realistic expectation this team should have. Their defense will be healthier. You should get growth from a guy in Mason Laura on that from the defensive side. I think that'll be huge. I think their defense, assuming everybody's healthy, stays strong. I think they'll be good defensively. Jeremy Swayman will have a bounce back year. I won't be shocked by that. But this is going to be a brutal, brutal team to watch because they're not going to be able to score goals. So they scored 222 goals last year. Subtract 10 goals away, right? We'll just subtract 10 goals. 212 goals. Half of those goals, David Pastrnak contributed to her. He had 106 points last year. Almost half of Boston's goals last year, David Pastrnak had a point on. It's insane. He is their offense at this point. You have some guys that could step up. You have some guys that will step up. But overall, I don't know. I don't know how this team is going to do well if you have to win by scoring goals and you can't score goals. You can defend, but Are you going to win a lot of 1-0, 2-1 games? Probably not. Questions. I'm not. I'm not high on Boston this year. I want to be so hopeful. I want some of these young guys. I'm a Boston fan. I got Boston stuff. I want Boston to come in, have these young guys come in and just go off. But I don't. I don't think that's a realistic expectation. So I got Boston last. I was tough to find where the points would land. I chose 68. They could be a little better. They could be a little worse. It depends if there's injuries to some of their defensemen. They could be like a 62-point team potentially, and they could be as good as like 75, 76 maybe. I don't know they'll get that high though. It's questionable. Metropolitan Division. We're moving on. A lot of passion here. Metropolitan Division. I got Carolina Hurricanes number 1, 112 points this year, plus 13. I really don't hate their defense at all. I have questions about their third pairing. Nikishin, great. He's more of an offensive guy, so I have questions about his defense. I think Nick Ehlers is a good add. I think their top 6 is pretty solid. There's some younger guys, got some questions. They're really a 2-line scoring team, and their bottom 6 are checkers and grinders. That's really worked well for Rod Brindamore and the Hurricanes. I think that'll continue to work. I think they'll be good. So I wore a Hurricanes jersey because I think they're going up 13 points. That's not all because of Ehlers. I don't think one player can justify winning. Was that 6.5 extra games? I just want to throw that out there. But I do think the Hurricanes are good. I do think they also had a bit of a down year last year. There was some turnover, the whole Rantanen thing, the Nietzsche's thing. You got guys like Stankoven who should take a step forward, and so on. Washington Capitals, I got going down 7 points to 104. I do absolutely really enjoy watching the Capitals as well. I think they're a really fun team to watch. You had guys like Alexei Protas come out of nowhere and score 30 and 30. I would love to see if that happens again. I hope it does. I really like. He's a hard-nosed Russian guy. I really like him. I really do. You have Ovechkin scoring a ton of goals last year. Is he going to replicate that? I don't think he's going to have the year he had last year. You have guys like Pierre-Luc Dubois. He had a very excellent season last year. He played a strong 200-foot game. I know he's gotten a lot of critiques for his passiveness and not willing to play defense. I thought he was excellent on both ends of the ice last year, and he played incredibly well. Will he replicate that? We saw him play like that for a season in Columbus, and then it just collapsed. So I don't know, but you also do have guys like Connor McMichael, and you have some younger forwards. I guess my question, I don't really have too many questions with them. I think their defense is fine. I still love John Carlson. I think aside from Carlson, I don't even have their depth chart up. I don't think a lot of where are they? Wow. They have $4.13 million in cap space. Yeah, from their blue line, they're not going to have a whole lot of offense from their blue line. You got Carlson, you got Chychrun. Carlson's 35. Chychrun is what he is at this point. He's 27. Let's stop sugarcoating the donut over here. He is what he is, which isn't a bad player, but I don't know if I don't know if he is the next John Carlson. I don't think he is at this point. John Carlson's an excellent player and still playing at a high level, though. Columbus surprised me. Columbus, I had 95 points, a +6 jump. A lot of people think they overperformed last year, and that's true to an extent. But I think there's a lot of young guys on this team that are going to take pretty decent steps forward this year. You have Matejchuk on the back end, who looks to grow his defensive game. Didn't produce much offensively, but is very, very talented. And if you watch Matejchuk, he's going to score plenty of points in his career. He's so good offensively. You have a guy like Fantilli who should take a step up. You'll have guys that'll take a step back, like probably Sean Monahan. Most likely will slot into that number 2 center role. Assuming you have Boone Jenner healthy for a whole year. he consistently throws up points and provides that physical piece as well as a defensive piece when needed. I don't hate this team. I do have some questions about their defense and their ability to defend. You gave Provorov a lot of money, which is fine. Provorov was good last year. I get it. You also have Severson, right? He's locked up for quite some time to come. There's definitely some improvements that could be made on the back end. You hope Zach Werenski can be healthy for the whole year. You kind of need him to be because he's more of a 200-foot offensive defenseman. He still can play pretty solid defense and plays like half a game every night. Just absurd. Merzlikins, I don't know. I love Elvis Merzlikins, but this is what his third or fourth. I think it's his third straight year with a sub 900 save percentage. He needs to be better. You have Jet Greaves. Will other teams start to figure out Jet Greaves? But we're moving on to New York Rangers. Just got a text from my pharmacy. Okay. I just want to make sure nothing important was happening. New York Rangers, I got them with 93 points. A lot of people were saying that the Rangers, they're probably going to be a playoff team this year. I was like, there's no way. So I'm looking at the roster, and I'm like, all right, I guess this is probably all right. I was wrong. Their top six should be solid. Realistically, they should be pretty solid. You have guys like Lafreniere who hopefully can add a little more offense to his game, right? But you also have kind of an upgrade on defense. I love Keandre Miller. I'd say defensively, Gavrikov is a bit of an upgrade. You're going to lose some offensive output with Keandre Miller, but Gavrikov is a guy you can pair with Adam Fox, who is he's an offensive defenseman. I think that's going to be an excellent pairing. You have some questions on defense. You have some questions. There's some holes that could be filled, but overall, I think they're going to be decent. I think they're going to be competitive. You have JT Miller and Trocheck as your 1-2 punch. Right now, I think Puckpedia has Trocheck as the number one center and Miller as the second. So we'll see. We'll see how those lines pan out. I'd expect JT Miller to get more ice time in general. Trocheck should get more penalty kill time. JT Miller should get power play time. We'll see. But I really, yeah. I want the Rangers to miss the playoffs pretty bad. I do. I don't like the New York Rangers. I do think they're going to make the playoffs. So we'll see. I got a +8 from last year. That's +4 wins or -4 losses, or however you want to look at it. You can make the case for them jumping Columbus if you want. I think both of them are probably going to be playoff teams at this point, though. First team out, I got the New Jersey Devils. You had Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes healthy for most of the season for both of them. They both played almost the entire season, which is very unusual for either player to do, let alone at the same time. There were other injuries. I get that. I don't know with Sheldon Keefe as the coach. I have questions about his ability to coach defense on a team. Team defense is very important, and we didn't see a whole lot of that in Toronto under Sheldon Keefe. So I have some questions there. I think if that team defensive piece can get figured out, I think they'll be fine. I don't see it happening, and I don't see Hischier and Hughes staying healthy for 70+ games each this upcoming season. I don't know, man. You have some great pieces there. Siegenthaler is a blast to watch. He's a defensive guy, but he's very sound positionally. He'll throw hits. I love watching Siegenthaler play. That was a great pickup. That was such a good trade. Getting Siegenthaler. I love that. So I do have him going down 5 points. I don't think it's the end of the world, but there needs to be tweaks. I don't think the general manager's done enough to improve this team, and I don't think the coaching helps at all. And there's injury questions along with all that. So there's that. Next up, I got the New York Islanders. I have them staying even from last year, which I've got to be honest, like, their offense isn't that bad. There's a lot of potential there. I was surprised. What did they have? They were one of the lowest scoring teams last year. I don't see that happening again. I don't think they're going to be elite. I don't think they're going to be throwing up 4+ goals every night. But yeah, I kind of don't hate what they're doing over there. They kind of look good. I do have some questions about their defense. You have Pollock and Pellick. They're both getting old. The third pairing with Scott Mayfield and Matthew Schaefer. Schaefer, he's going to make mistakes. He's an 18-year-old kid. That's if he makes the roster and is in the opening night lineup. And if he's going to make the roster, you should put him in the opening night lineup. You should play him a bit, get that experience. There's no use in having this kid start off and then having him scratched, considering he missed a lot of time last year. We'll see. I think there's potential with this team. You still have Sorokin in net. Sorokin's a quality goaltender. I have him staying about even. I think there's definitely questions to be had on defense, but at the same time, I think this team has kind of a bright future. Islanders. Flyers, I have improving 4 points. I don't remember why. I'm not going to lie. I actually have no idea. I got to pull up their depth chart again. The Flyers are always a team. I grew up with, being a Bruins fan, and the rivalry between Boston and Philly, at least from a Boston side, was aggressive. I was at that game. I was sitting behind, several rows behind the glass when Randy Jones knocked out Patrice Bergeron, and Bergeron laid on the ice for minutes unconscious. The glass broke. I don't. So the Flyers are bad. I'd love to forget about them. The fact of the matter is, they're getting better and they're improving, and I think they're doing the slow rebuild, but I think they're starting to do things a little right. I'm going to start talking about goaltenders. Their goaltending scenario isn't great. They trade off Fedotov. I think the pronunciation says Fedotov. So, excuse me. They have Sam Ersson, Dan Vladar. I have a lot of questions about their defense and their ability to defend. Cam York, Travis Sanheim, fine. Nick Seeler, Jamie Drysdale. Nick Seeler is probably a third pairing guy, a very good third pairing defenseman. Probably shouldn't be in a top 4. Jamie Drysdale has to work a lot on his defensive capabilities. That's going to be an issue. And then you have Andre and Zamula on the third pairing, which I think will be serviceable. Again, you got a lot of young guys. Drysdale, Andrea, and Zamula are all under 25. Cam York is only 24. That blows my mind. I can't believe he's only 24. But in general, I think their offense isn't that bad. You have Michkov. Couturier, we'll see. I don't know. He hasn't been the same Couturier since the injury, and it's hard to watch. I mean, he's a great player. He's a fun guy to watch, but he's capable of so much more, and you just don't quite get that. Konechny, Tippett, you have Zegras now on this team. Probably should be that second line center, you'd think. Might be the first line center, depending on Couturier, depending on defensive responsibilities. Tyson Forrester, you still have Noah Cates. I do love me some Bobby Brink. I love Bobby Brink. And you have some guys that can throw haymakers still and kind of defend those younger kids, right? You have Delorier and Garnet Hathaway. And those are both guys that can play on the penalty kill and are pretty good on the penalty kill. They're very, very serviceable players. I think they're going to improve. I think some of these younger guys are going to step up. I think a change of scene for Zegras will help quite a bit. I think Tortorella being out will probably help a little bit. And I love Torts as a coach, but he has a lifespan. We'll see. Tockett's the coach now, right? Rick Tocchet. So we'll see, because Talkett's still kind of a Tortorella. He's like a Tortorella light. But you'd expect to see some improvement. You're still going to expect team defense from Talkett. You're still going to expect your defensive guys to defend as well as jumping up to the offensive play when appropriate. So yeah, I kind of expect an improvement from them. I have them going up 4 points. That's pretty reasonable. Last up, I got the Penguins. Dude, their defense is atrocious. It's rough. You know, you're looking at Jari's stats and you're like, wow, he had a rough year. And then you look at the team playing in front of him and you're like, oh, I think he actually probably didn't have as bad of a year as everyone thinks. He was probably pretty decent in what he could do last year. You know, it's just, yeah, that defense is rough. And yeah, you got a decent first line over there, and you got Malkin on that second line. You have some offensive pieces, but you also, you know, your GM's also been vocal about trading Raquel or Rust, and that's a good chunk of your offense right there. So it's going to be an interesting year for Penguins fans. They're potentially still in the decline. I have them going down 8 points this year. You know, we'll see. I do, you know, I'm a Boston fan, so like I don't like the Penguins per se, but at the same time, like both Boston and Pittsburgh were so good for so long, and now you're just seeing that slow-ish decline, and it's just you're getting worse every year when you're already bad. Pittsburgh's been in that longer than Boston. Boston's first year was last year. This isn't new to Pittsburgh fans, so it's tough. I feel for Pittsburgh fans, and there are some teams that have just been down the bottom for quite some time, and some teams that have just been mediocre. And then you got the Canadians over here. These guys, who make the Stanley Cup in 2021 or something, 2020, 2021. Have a couple of years of being rough, and then all of a sudden, your rebuild's done. Oh, man, that is a team that did the rebuild right. It's just incredible. But I also hated with the Flyers. We're going back to the Flyers now. I hated Danny Briere as a player so much. But he has done an incredible job as GM over in Philly. So I got to give credit where credit's due. I think Philly is on the right track. I think they've acquired some important pieces, and I think they're building it up the right way. They're taking their time. They're doing it right. They're trying to build something sustainable. And somehow Montreal built that within a few years, which is extremely abnormal, but and extremely difficult. You almost never see that. Montreal did it. So that's all I got. This video is getting way too long because I'm doing a lot of rambling. So appreciate you. Let me know what you think. What do you agree with? Some of these, they're projected point values. Some of them are, a lot of people are going to disagree with a lot of this, and that's perfectly okay. This is fun discussion, fun to look back at in the middle of the season. I'm going to do one for the Western Conference, so even if you throw hate, as long as it's, fun and good-natured, throw the hate, because I would throw hate as well. So, yeah. All right. Appreciate you. Take care.